Justice Clarence Thomas interrupts Jasmine Crockett mid-sentence again and again, sneering, "Do you even understand constitutional law?" while the entire nation watches live. But Crockett doesn't flinch. In the next minutes, she flips the script completely, pulling out leaked travel logs, whistleblower emails, and a former clerk's sworn affidavit, each fact landing like a hammer blow while Thomas's smirk fades, his jaw locks, and his once unshakable authority starts cracking right there on camera for the world to see. What starts as one justice trying to bully a freshman congresswoman explodes into the viral moment of the year, leaves Thomas frozen and exposed, and ignites a nationwide firestorm, asking the question no one can ignore anymore: who really answers to the people? The hearing room in Washington felt thick with tension right from the start, like everyone knew something big was about to go down. At the center sat Justice Clarence Thomas, the longtime heavyweight on the bench, looking calm and in total control, his lifetime appointment making him seem untouchable. Across from him was Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, the sharp Texas Democrat, eyes locked forward, ready to challenge him head-on. Thomas started with that low, slow chuckle the second Crockett began laying out her points on why the court needed more transparency. He leaned in slightly, staring right at her like she was some rookie who didn't belong. "Congresswoman Crockett," he said, dragging out her title like it was funny. "You call yourself a lawyer, but do you actually understand the basics of constitutional law?" The room went dead quiet for a beat. It wasn't just a question, it was a straight-up put-down, wrapped in polite words but hitting like a slap. A few people in the gallery shifted uncomfortably, sensing the power play. Crockett didn't flinch or laugh it off to stay likable. She just held his gaze, steady and calm, letting the silence stretch until it felt uncomfortable for everyone else. Before she could finish her next sentence, Thomas cut her off sharp. "This isn't a campaign rally," he snapped, voice rising just enough to remind everyone who he thought was in charge. "We're here to discuss law, not put on a show." The word show hung there like an insult. He interrupted again right after, twisting her words. "So what you're really saying is you don't trust the court at all." It was a classic trap, make her look emotional or reckless. Some whispers started in the back. He's not letting her breathe. But Crockett stayed cool, jaw set, not letting him rattle her. Then she made her move. Instead of yelling back, she slowed everything down. "Let me finish," she said firmly, each word clear and deliberate. "Let the public hear the full sentence before you rewrite it." The chair glanced at the clock, mumbling something about time limits, but Crockett wasn't backing off. Thomas gave another short laugh, trying to brush it aside. She fired right back. "Funny how time only matters when it's not your turn to talk." A few heads turned quick. The room felt the shift. For the first time, Thomas paused before responding, like he wasn't used to someone pushing back this way. Crockett didn't stop there. She turned to the microphone, voice level but precise. "I'd like the record to reflect that I was interrupted. Multiple times." The stenographer's fingers flew across the keys, capturing every word officially. That simple request hit different. It wasn't drama, it was procedure, the kind of thing that sticks forever in transcripts. A low ripple went through the chamber. People realized this wasn't just talk anymore. Thomas straightened up, irritation flashing across his face. "This is unnecessary," he said, voice tighter now. Crockett met his eyes without blinking. "So is silencing someone," she replied evenly. "But here we are." Thomas kept pushing, his voice staying cool but getting sharper, like he was trying to regain control after that first slip. He leaned forward a bit, eyes narrowing on Crockett. "What you're doing here isn't oversight," he said flatly. "It's political theater dressed up as justice. You're confusing activism with actual law, emotion with structure, noise with substance." The words landed like little jabs, designed to make her look like she was just grandstanding for the cameras. A couple of people in the audience nodded slightly, maybe buying into the framing, while others just watched, waiting to see if she'd crack. Crockett didn't rush to defend herself. She let his accusations sit there for a second, heavy in the air, giving everyone time to feel how dismissive it really was. Then she hit back, slow and steady. No raised voice, just pure precision. "So your position is this," she said, tilting her head just a fraction. "When elected officials question judicial behavior, it's activism. But when judges dismiss those questions, it's authority." The room tightened up fast. That wasn't some emotional comeback. It was a clean strike straight at the heart of his logic. Thomas gave a small shake of his head like he was brushing off a fly. "The court doesn't answer to political pressure," he repeated, doubling down, stacking his words higher. "We decide based on the law, not public opinion or congressional grandstanding." He kept going, listing off reasons why the bench needed independence, sounding more confident with every sentence. But Crockett just watched him, eyes calm, not interrupting, letting him build his own wall higher and higher. She nodded once, almost like she was taking notes in her head. "So, accountability equals pressure," she said quietly, "and transparency equals interference." A few murmurs rippled through the gallery. Someone in the back let out a soft "damn" under their breath. Thomas shifted in his seat, clearly irritated now, but he tried to play it off with another dismissive wave. "You're implying motives where none exist," he said. Crockett didn't blink. "No, Justice Thomas, I'm documenting patterns." That word, patterns, hung there like a warning. Because patterns aren't opinions. They're evidence that keeps showing up, no matter how much you wave them away. The stenographer's keys kept clicking steadily, every word locked in forever. That's when Crockett turned the heat up in a way nobody expected. She leaned in just a little, voice dropping lower so the room had to strain to catch it. "You've talked a lot about lifetime appointments protecting independence," she said. "But let's be real. Does that same lifetime shield also protect someone from ever having to answer tough questions?" The chamber went still. Thomas's jaw tightened visibly. He opened his mouth to snap back, but she didn't give him the opening. "You mocked my legal skills earlier," she continued, "questioned if I even understand the Constitution. So let me ask you straight. Does a lifetime appointment mean the Constitution stops applying to the people wearing the robes?" It was personal now, flipping his own attack right back at him, and the room felt it. Thomas fired back quick. "That's a gross misrepresentation," he said, voice clipped and cold. "The appointment ensures we aren't swayed by politics, not that we're above the law." But the snap in his tone gave him away. He was defending now instead of dominating. Crockett stayed rock steady, no smirk, no gloating. "Respect for the bench isn't automatic," she said evenly. "Respect is earned, not demanded just because of the title or the robe." A sharp inhale cut through the silence from somewhere in the audience. Thomas adjusted his posture, pulling his shoulders back like he was trying to rebuild the armor, but the crack was already there, small but visible. She didn't keep hammering right away. Instead, she eased off just enough to let him dig deeper. Thomas started repeating himself, more about judicial independence, more about how Congress shouldn't meddle, each sentence sounding a little more defensive than the last. Crockett sat there, hand resting lightly on her closed binder, eyes never leaving him. Crockett finally reached for the thick binder that had been sitting untouched in front of her the whole time. She didn't slam it open or make a big show, just flipped the cover back slow and deliberate, letting the room see the neat stack of pages inside. "I'm moving to enter a summarized timeline into the record," she said, voice calm but carrying weight. "It covers public ethics concerns, disclosure questions, and standards for judicial impartiality that have been raised repeatedly." She paused, letting that sink in. "This isn't a set of accusations. These are documented issues this committee has a duty to review." The words landed clean. No drama, just facts, and suddenly the binder wasn't just paper anymore. It was a loaded weapon. Thomas reacted fast. "This is irrelevant," he cut in, voice sharp and clipped. "Pure theatrics. You're turning a legal discussion into a spectacle." He leaned forward, trying to shut it down before it could spread. Crockett didn't even glance away from her notes at first. She just kept her tone even. Relevance isn't about comfort, Justice Thomas. Relevance is about conflict of interest. A low murmur rolled through the gallery, people shifting, realizing the ground had shifted again. She kept going. If public trust in the court depends on impartiality, then transparency isn't optional, it's foundational. Thomas shook his head, mouth tight. "You're implying misconduct without any proof," he pushed back. The room waited, breath held. That's when the real bomb dropped. A quiet committee staffer, someone most people hadn't even noticed until now, stepped forward from the side wall. No fanfare, no announcement. Just a thin folder sliding across the staff table with a soft scrape of paper on wood. The sound was small, but in that silent chamber it might as well have been a gunshot. Every camera caught it. Viewers at home started typing in the chat instantly. "What's in the folder? Who just brought that up?" Crockett didn't turn to look at it right away. She let it sit there like a loaded question nobody had dared ask out loud yet. Then she lifted her eyes to Thomas again. "Before we go any further," she said, "I want to be very clear about what you just told the American people." She pointed to the folder without touching it. "That contains confirmed public complaints. Undisclosed gifts, private travel funded by individuals with interests before the court, potential conflicts that were never reported." The staffer spoke up briefly, voice flat and professional. "The documents have been logged for committee review. They include receipts, travel logs, and correspondence already made public through FOIA requests. No conclusions, no judgments, just cold confirmation that the concerns were real and on paper." Thomas's grip tightened on the armrest of his chair. Crockett met his stare head-on. "Transparency isn't optional," she said quietly. "It's foundational. And right now, the public is asking why these issues keep getting dismissed instead of answered." Thomas came back hard. "You're implying misconduct without evidence," he repeated, voice colder now, irritation breaking through the calm mask. "This is character assassination disguised as procedure." Crockett didn't raise her voice, didn't flinch. She just leaned in slightly. "I'm not implying anything," she said, each word measured and sharp. "I'm documenting for the public to decide. That's how oversight works. That's how accountability works." The last sentence hit like a hammer. Murmurs erupted around the room, reporters typing faster, aides exchanging looks, a few people in the back actually gasping out loud. Thomas's jaw locked. For the first time, he didn't have a quick comeback ready. He just sat there, frozen, while the stenographer's keys kept clicking, locking every second of it into the permanent record. Then Crockett flipped to a marked section in the binder, her movements slow and deliberate, like she was handling something fragile but deadly. She didn't shout or wave papers around, just started reading from the page in a clear, even voice that carried to every corner of the room. Leaked travel logs from 2018 to 2022 show multiple undisclosed trips, private flights, luxury accommodations, all paid for by individuals and groups with direct business before the court. She paused to let the specifics hit home. One series of trips in 2019 coincided with oral arguments in a major corporate liability case. The same donor sat on the board of a company that later benefited from the majority opinion. The room sucked in a collective breath. Reporters' pens froze mid-sentence. Thomas's face hardened, but he stayed silent for the first beat. He finally spoke, voice low and controlled. "These are distortions. Private travel is not prohibited, and no ethics rule was violated." Crockett didn't let him finish the deflection. "The issue isn't whether it was technically allowed at the time," she said. "It's whether the public was told. Disclosure forms from those years list nothing. No trips, no gifts, no connections." She tapped the page once. "And the patterns line up. Favorable rulings follow the same circles. Patterns don't lie, Justice Thomas. They expose." A ripple of murmurs spread through the gallery. Someone in the back whispered, "Holy shit," loud enough for the microphones to catch it. Thomas shook his head sharply. "You're connecting dots that don't exist," he said. But the edge in his voice was sharper now, less certain. Crockett shifted gears, turning the hearing into something that felt straight out of a courtroom she'd dominated for years. She leaned into the microphone, eyes locked on him, and started cross-examining like she was back in front of a jury. "In 2016, during your confirmation hearings, you stated under oath, 'A justice must avoid even the appearance of impropriety. The public's trust depends on it.' Do you stand by that today?" Thomas nodded once, stiff. "Of course." She didn't miss a beat. "Then explain why the same standard seems to vanish when it comes to your own schedule. You said last year in a speech that justices should be free from outside influence. Yet these documents show repeated contact with the exact kind of influence you claim to reject." She quoted him again, word for word, pulling from old transcripts she'd clearly memorized. "Your words, not mine." Thomas opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. "Those were general principles," he managed, the words coming slower than before. A tiny stutter slipped in. "General principles." And the room noticed. Crockett didn't pounce on the hesitation. She just kept the pressure steady. "General principles that apparently don't apply when the trips are private jets and the donors are billionaire friends." She flipped another page. "And here's the affidavit from a former clerk who worked under you in 2020. She read the key line flat and factual. "I observed discussions about cases involving donors who had recently hosted the justice. The clerk raised concerns internally and was told to drop it." Gasps broke out, sharp, audible ones, from multiple spots in the chamber. Phones in the audience lit up as people started recording. Thomas's hands gripped the arms of his chair tighter, knuckles showing white against the dark robe. That was when Crockett delivered the line that cut deepest. She set the binder down, looked straight at him, and spoke without raising her voice. "You mocked my legal skills at the start of this hearing, questioned if I even belonged here. But your arrogance just exposed your vulnerabilities. You thought you could talk over me, rewrite my words, shut down questions. Instead, you handed the public every piece of proof they needed." Thomas's composure cracked right there. His jaw clenched so hard you could see the muscle jump, his eyes narrowed to slits, but he couldn't hide the flicker of something raw underneath. The smirk from earlier was long gone. What was left was a man watching his carefully built wall crumble in real time. She didn't stop. "The Constitution protects the people, not the powerful," she said, each word landing like a verdict. "It doesn't give anyone a lifetime pass to dodge accountability just because they wear a robe. When the bench starts acting like it's above the rules it enforces, that's when trust dies. And right now, the American people are watching it happen." The chamber felt smaller, the air thicker. No one moved. The stenographer's fingers were flying, but the rest of the room was frozen, caught in the moment where authority didn't just get challenged. It got shattered. Thomas tried to straighten his posture one last time, but the effort looked forced, almost desperate. Crockett sat back slightly, calm as ever, while the weight of what she'd just done settled over everyone. Then the chair banged the gavel lightly, voice strained. "Order, please. Maintain decorum." But it was way too late. The room was buzzing, people whispering, phones already out recording the fallout. Thomas tried one last push to close it down. "This line of questioning is misguided and over," he said, tone clipped, like he could still command the space. Crockett didn't even look rattled. She leaned into the mic one more time. "The record is done here," she said calmly, "and it will outlive both of us." That line dropped like a stone in still water. No yelling, no drama, just truth that couldn't be taken back. The stenographer's keys kept going, sealing everything forever. Thomas sat back, jaw tight, while the chamber felt the shift. His authority wasn't just questioned anymore. It was cracked wide open. Right as the chair called for recess, Crockett dropped the final bomb. "Before we adjourn," she said, pulling up one last page on her tablet, "I want the record to note a fresh whistleblower submission that just came in, live, during this session." She read the key excerpt flat. An email chain from an anonymous court insider detailing direct coordination between donors and case discussions. Influence peddling isn't speculation anymore. It's documented. The room exploded in murmurs. Gasps, sharp exhales, reporters scrambling to tweet. Online feeds lit up instantly. #ThomasHearing trending within seconds. Comments flooding in with fire emojis and holy crap reactions. Thomas's face went stone cold, but the damage was rolling out in real time. His once untouchable image crumbling under the weight of fresh proof nobody saw coming. The clip spread like wildfire the moment the hearing ended. That freeze frame of Thomas's smirk vanishing, his jaw locking, Crockett staying ice cool, it became the thumbnail everywhere. Law professors broke it down frame by frame on TikTok and YouTube. Textbook cross-examination. Regular people shared it with captions like, "Finally, someone said what we all think." Views climbed into the millions in hours. Protests popped up outside the court building by evening. Signs reading, "Accountability now" and "No one is above the law." Calls for formal investigations hit Congress switchboards hard. Crockett walked out steady, no victory lap, just quiet steps down the hallway while staff hustled to keep up. Behind her, Thomas stayed seated a beat longer than usual. Outside the chamber, a reporter caught Crockett in the hallway. She stopped just long enough to answer. "I didn't come here to go viral," she said quietly. "I came to make the record truthful." Then she added the part that raised stakes higher. "Based on everything entered today, including the whistleblower emails, we will pursue formal inquiries. No one gets a pass." No smile, no fist pump, just a promise that this wasn't over. The statement hit newswires immediately, fueling more outrage and support. Days later, Crockett went public with the next move. At a press conference, she announced a new bill, the Judicial Ethics and Transparency Act, designed to force real-time disclosure of gifts, travel, and contacts. No more loopholes. "This directly addresses the patterns we saw," she said, staring straight into cameras. "If the court won't police itself, Congress will step up." Media went nuts, panels debating it nonstop, editorials calling it bold or overreach. Online petitions hit hundreds of thousands of signatures overnight. Supporters flooded her office with messages. "Keep fighting." Even some conservatives quietly admitted the transparency push made sense. Thomas's name stayed in headlines, his defenders scrambling, but the narrative had flipped. Power had laughed first, but the record and the people spoke last. In the end, the moment didn't fade. It sparked real change. More scrutiny on the bench, inspired everyday folks to demand better, reminded everyone that calm defiance can hit harder than any shout. Reputations cracked, activism surged, and the lesson stuck. When arrogance meets preparation in a room full of cameras, accountability doesn't whisper. It erupts. And once it starts, it doesn't stop easy. If this moment hit you hard, watching one woman calmly flip the script on raw power and make the whole room freeze, don't let it end here. Hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss the next real showdown, the next razor-sharp takedown, or the next story where truth refuses to stay quiet. Turn on notifications too, because the record is still being written, chapter by chapter, and you deserve to see every single one unfold. Thanks for sticking with me all the way through. Now smash subscribe and let's keep watching the truth win together.